She's just jealous because Kyle's fiancée is actually pretty, my mother muttered loud enough for the whole table to hear. I'd covered half the down payment for their new house, paid off my brother's DUI fines, sent grocery money when Mom said things were tight. But that night, I wasn't offered a chair. I didn't raise my voice. I just slipped out the back door while they laughed. 2 days later, their realtor called deal off. Turns out co-signers can withdraw without notice. My name is Stephanie Harris. I'm 25, a doctor, and I live in a town that prides itself on appearances more than authenticity, Oak Ridge, Michigan. Population just under 15,000. The kind of place where every family dinner is also a performance and the stakes are your reputation. Growing up, the Harris family was picture perfect. My father, Thomas, was a self-made real estate developer. My mother, Natalie, chaired every major charity board in town and practically ran the garden club like a monarchy. My older brother, Kyle, now 28, was the golden child, the heir apparent to my father's empire. And then there was me. The quiet achiever, the straight-A student, the girl who swapped her dreams for a career that would make my parents proud. We lived in a colonial house with 6 bedrooms and a wraparound porch, the kind of place featured in glossy community magazines. We had professional photos taken every Christmas. My mother micromanaged everything from our outfits to the calligraphy on the cards. We were the family others wanted to be. But inside was something else entirely. Kyle had a temper. My parents said, as if that explained everything. When we were kids, it meant broken toys and shredded books. One time, he destroyed 3 porcelain dolls my grandmother gave me, shattering them one by one on the floor of my room. My parents replaced them, but they always said the same thing. Kyle just has big emotions. You need to be understanding. I was told to be the peacemaker, to be the understanding little sister, to be the one who brushed things off for the sake of family harmony. As we grew older, Kyle's temper didn't go away. It evolved. He stopped breaking things and started breaking me. Words, mostly. Snide remarks about my appearance, my clothes, my voice. If I dared respond, he'd laugh and call me too sensitive. When I brought this up with my parents, they waved it off. Siblings fight, my mother would say, brushing crumbs off the kitchen island. Don't be so dramatic. I wasn't being dramatic. I was being erased. When I got straight A's, good job, honey. But when Kyle barely passed economics, we celebrated with steak dinners. When I got into the University of Michigan with a partial scholarship, my parents said, "That's great, sweetie." When Kyle got into Michigan State with the help of a hefty donation from Dad to the business school, they threw a party for half the town. Still, I tried to be the perfect daughter. I wanted to make them proud. So when my high school art teacher said I had real talent, told me to consider art school, I dismissed it. My father had laughed the first time he saw me painting. Pretty, but not a career. Unless you want to live off granola and couch surf through life. So I gave it up. I buried that part of myself and pursued pre-med. I studied obsessively, aced the MCAT, and got into med school. And when I graduated, I didn't even get a family dinner out of it, because the Harris family doesn't celebrate quiet victories. We celebrate what makes us look good. Oak Ridge adored us. We were in the papers for charity events, fundraisers, civic leadership. My father sponsored youth baseball. My mother emceed the Children's Hospital Gala every year. We were more than residents. We were Oak Ridge royalty. But royalty comes at a price. We didn't air our dirty laundry. We didn't talk about feelings. We didn't call out injustice, especially not when Kyle was involved. After my residency in Chicago, I returned home to Oak Ridge. I took a position at a local medical practice that offered loan forgiveness. But deep down, I also hoped things might be different now, that as an adult with a title in front of my name, I might finally be seen. The first dinner back home should have told me everything. Kyle dominated the conversation with stories about his promotion. My mother interrupted my story about a complex case I'd worked on to ask if I was dating anyone. Still, I tried. I showed up. I smiled. I brought a bottle of Kyle's favorite whiskey to his promotion dinner, even though money was tight that month. I wanted so badly for things to be different. But I was wrong. And what happened that night would change everything. To be continued in Part 2, Rejection and Brutality at the Dinner Table. The night that broke me was supposed to be a celebration. My mother had spent the whole week preparing for Kyle's promotion dinner. She made his favorite beef Wellington, decorated the dining room with gold and navy streamers to match the Harris Development logo, and even ordered a custom cake with the words, "Future CEO," scrawled in gold icing. I arrived early, hoping that if I helped out, I might feel like I belonged again. I brought a bottle of Kyle's favorite whiskey, even though I was stretching my budget thin from settling into my new apartment. I helped my mother set the table, carefully placing the monogrammed silver napkin rings she'd chosen for the occasion. Everything looked perfect on the outside. Dinner began smoothly enough. My father opened an expensive bottle of red wine. Kyle was already on his second glass of whiskey when we toasted. To Kyle, my father said, raising his glass, for following in my footsteps and already exceeding them. Harris Development is in good hands. We clinked glasses. I smiled, holding back the bitterness. Congrats, Kyle. The Riverside clients seem really impressed with your work. Kyle grinned. Damn right. I saved that whole project after Jackson nearly tanked it. Conversation flowed for a while, but it always orbited around Kyle, his success, his plans, his girlfriend Megan. We're thinking about moving in together, Kyle announced between bites of beef Wellington. Her lease is up next month. Doesn't make sense to keep paying rent when she's already at my place most nights. My mother smiled tightly. She had always preferred a ring before cohabitation, but said nothing. I like Megan, I said honestly. I ran into her at the grocery store last week. She said she hopes you'll come to her family's lake house this summer. Kyle's fork froze mid-air. When did you talk to Megan? Just last week. We chatted a bit. She mentioned your dad's fishing boat needed repairs. He set his fork down. She needs to keep her mouth shut about my family. The table went still. My mother lowered her gaze. My father sipped his wine. She wasn't saying anything bad, I replied carefully. Just making conversation. Last month, she said our family is intense after Sunday dinner, Kyle snapped. Like her family's any better with her alcoholic uncle and her shoplifting sister. She probably didn't mean it that way, my mother murmured, trying to smooth it over. But Kyle wasn't done. She's probably talking to you behind my back now, too, feeding you crap about our relationship. That's not what happened at all, I said, my voice rising slightly. I like Megan. I think she's good for you. Oh, please, Kyle scoffed. Always so perfect, aren't you, Dr. Stephanie Harris? The good daughter, everyone's favorite. I almost laughed at that. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. But I didn't laugh. I tried to de-escalate. Kyle, I think you're misunderstanding. Don't tell me what I understand, he shouted, slamming his whiskey glass down on the table. The liquid splashed onto the tablecloth. My mother flinched. My father cleared his throat. Son, this is supposed to be a celebration. Let's dial it back. I need some air. Kyle muttered, pushing back his chair, hard enough to make the legs screech against the floor. He stomped into the kitchen. After a long, strained silence, my mother suggested we move to dessert. I'll help with the plates, I offered. Really, I just wanted to check on Kyle to smooth things over, still believing foolishly that things could go back to normal. I found him at the counter pouring himself another glass of whiskey. I'm sorry if I upset you, I said gently. I didn't mean anything by it. He turned to face me, his eyes glassy with alcohol. You always do this, acting like you're innocent, but really you're just stirring shit up. That's not fair, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I was just trying to be friendly. Stay out of my relationship, he growled. Stop trying to get close to Megan to dig up dirt. That's not what happened. Why would I do that? Because you're jealous, he spat. Jealous of everything I have. Dad's company, Mom's attention, success. You can't stand that I've made it and you're still drowning in student loans. His words hit like a slap. They were so backwards, so diluted, I didn't even know how to respond. So I laughed, a short, stunned, disbelieving laugh, and that was the match to gasoline. Don't you fucking laugh at me, he shouted. Then before I could move, he shoved me, hard. My back slammed into the sharp corner of the granite counter. The wind left my lungs. I heard a crack. Pain exploded through my side as I crumpled to the floor. Everything was a blur. My mother's scream, my father's shadow in the doorway, Kyle standing over me, breathing hard. She fell, Kyle said immediately. She tripped. I can't breathe. I gasped every word, sending daggers of pain through my ribs. She needs a hospital, my mother said, panicked. No, she's overreacting, my father said. We'll get her some ice. Ibuprofen. I'm a doctor, I rasped. My ribs are broken. But even then, their focus was on him, not me. Him. And that was the moment I knew I wasn't the daughter in this family. I was the liability. That night, I drove myself home with 3 fractured ribs and a mind spinning faster than the wheels on my car. Every bump in the road felt like a hammer to my chest. But somehow, the physical pain wasn't the worst part. What hurt more was hearing my own parents say, "Let's not overreact." I didn't go to the hospital that night. I should have. I know that. But I was in shock, still clinging to the idea that maybe this wasn't what it looked like. That my family, the people I had tried so hard to please, hadn't really just erased me to protect Kyle. But that illusion shattered the next morning. At 7:32 a.m., my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again at 7:45. This time, I answered. "Stephanie," she chirped far too brightly. "How are you feeling this morning? Like my ribs were broken last night," I replied. A beat of silence. Then that patronizing tone I knew too well. These things always feel worse the next day. "Take some Advil, sweetheart. Put some ice on it." "Mom, Kyle seriously hurt me." Another pause. "Let's not blow this out of proportion." "There's nothing proportional about broken bones," I snapped. "I'm going to see a doctor today." Her voice dropped. "Stephanie, I think it's best if we keep this within the family." There it was, the truth, the family motto. We don't air our dirty laundry, even when your son assaults your daughter. Are you seriously telling me not to seek medical attention because it might reflect badly on Kyle? "I'm asking you to think about the consequences," she said softly. "Your father's business, Kyle's future. This kind of misunderstanding can't go on the record. A misunderstanding I could barely breathe, and now I was choking on disbelief." The conversation ended when she passed the phone to my father. "Stephanie," he said in his "I'm in control" voice, "let's be reasonable. There's no need for doctors or reports. Ribs heal." "I'm going," I said. "I need x-rays. It hurts to breathe." He sighed. "If you insist, fine. But don't tell them your brother did it. Just say it was a fall." "I'm not lying." "You'll ruin him," he snapped. Over what a momentary lapse, he had too much to drink. He regrets it. Has he said that? No answer. Instead, later that afternoon, Kyle texted Mom, said I should call you. So, I guess things got out of hand last night. Sorry you're hurt. But you don't need to make a big deal out of it. You broke my ribs, Kyle. Come on, I barely pushed you. You must have landed wrong. He really said that, like it was my fault. When I pushed back, he got nasty fast. Don't be stupid. You blow this up, you'll regret it. Was that a threat? Maybe. But it was also the last straw. I called Melanie, my closest friend from high school, the one person I knew would believe me. When I told her what happened, she didn't hesitate. Oh my God, Steph, I'm coming with you to the doctor. You are not going through this alone. And she meant it. She stood by me as I limped into Dr. Laura Hayes' office later that day. And that's where everything began to change. Dr. Laura Hayes was a no-nonsense woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and a quiet presence. When she stepped into the exam room, clipboard in hand, she greeted me with a calm, "Stephanie, tell me what happened." I hesitated. Melanie gently touched my hand. "Tell her the truth." So I did. I told Dr. Hayes about the dinner, about Kyle, about the shove, the ribs, the silence. She listened without interrupting. Her eyes narrowed, not with judgment, just clarity. When I finished, she didn't flinch. She simply said, "You have 3 fractured ribs. One has a hairline displacement. You're lucky it didn't puncture a lung." Then she looked me dead in the eyes. "This was no minor incident. You were assaulted. And the fact that it happened at a family dinner doesn't make it any less serious." A lump rose in my throat. "I don't know what to do," I whispered. "My parents want me to lie. They said it would ruin Kyle's future." "And what about your future?" she asked. "Are they worried about that?" That's when something inside me cracked open. No, they weren't. They never had been. Dr. Hayes handed me a folder with photos of my bruises and a copy of my x-ray. "I'm obligated to report suspected abuse," she said gently, "but I want you to feel safe. If you choose to file a police report, this medical file will back you up. And if not, well, just know you don't have to go back there. You deserve to breathe freely, literally." That night, I sat on my couch with Melanie beside me and the manila folder resting on my lap like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I hadn't cried yet. Not really. But now with proof in hand, proof that what happened to me was real, I let it all go. The tears weren't just from pain. They were grief. Years of trying to earn a love that came with conditions, of twisting myself into someone my family might actually care about. And I was done. The next morning, I made a quiet decision. I wouldn't file a report just yet. Not because Kyle didn't deserve it, he did, but because I wanted the next move to be mine, on my terms, with control. So I did something that terrified me more than any police report. I called a lawyer. His name was Adam Blair. Melanie had recommended him. Former prosecutor, sharp as a tack and with zero tolerance for emotional bullshit. I showed him the file. Told him everything. Didn't sugarcoat a word. He leaned back in his chair, folded his hands, and said, "Do you want justice or leverage?" I blinked. "What's the difference?" He smiled coldly. "Justice is about punishment. Leverage is about power. They used emotional control to silence you. If you want to shift the dynamic permanently, we don't just make this about one night. We make it about the entire pattern, and we hit them where it hurts. How he tapped the folder. You have medical evidence, their texts, their voicemails. If you're willing, we build a civil suit, not just against Kyle for assault, but possibly against your parents for coercion and emotional negligence." My heart pounded. A lawsuit against my own family. Could I do that? Adam leaned forward. "Or you walk away with this file, let them keep pretending none of it happened, and spend the rest of your life swallowing the silence." That night, I made my decision. I wasn't staying silent anymore. I didn't plan for it to go public. But that's the thing about truth. It has a way of clawing its way out, especially when it's been buried for too long. Adam Blair filed the civil suit just 3 days after we met. It named Kyle for assault and my parents, John and Linda, for aiding in the cover-up and applying psychological pressure to suppress the incident. Their response: a classic denial. Kyle called it a misunderstanding. My mother said I was emotionally unstable. My father didn't even respond. He forwarded everything to his attorney. But here's where everything turned. Adam filed a motion to make the evidence public. The x-rays, the doctor's statement. The voicemails where my father said, "You're going to destroy your brother's life just because you can't take a joke." And then the press got wind of it. It started with a small local outlet in Charlotte, North Carolina. Then it spread BuzzFeed USA Today, even a segment on HLN. But it wasn't just the media attention that shifted the tide. It was who showed up at the first hearing. A woman in a dark suit with a badge tucked into her belt approached me in the hallway. Stephanie Price. "Yes, I'm Agent Lane with the DOJ. We're observing the case. Emotional coercion and domestic abuse concealment isn't just a civil matter, it can cross into criminal territory." I stared. "You mean my parents could face actual charges if it can be proven they knowingly pressured you to lie in exchange for family approval or withheld support as retaliation?" "Yes." It was surreal. I went into that courtroom as the black sheep, bruised, erased, and forgotten. I walked out, watched, feared. The public wasn't kind to Kyle. The video I didn't know Melanie had taken the dinner, the shouting Kyle lunging, went viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments. This is why women stay silent. This is what favoritism looks like. I hope she owns the whole damn house. I didn't read them all. I couldn't. But I saw enough to know people finally saw me. Even my old high school English teacher reached out. You were always strong, Stephanie. I just wish I'd said it sooner. And yet, the people closest to me still didn't budge. Mom showed up once to a hearing flanked by her attorney. She refused to make eye contact. Her statement, "We love our daughter very much. We believe this is a misunderstanding brought on by outside influences." She meant Melanie, as if the only way I could find courage was through someone else. But then came the moment that changed everything. The thumbnail moment. It was the 8th hearing Kyle's attorney tried to delay again, citing emotional stress. But before the judge responded, a man walked up to the bench. The bailiff handed over a sealed envelope. The judge opened it, brows raised, and said flatly, "Their loan has been denied." Everyone froze. Kyle's face went pale. My father, seated behind him, stood up abruptly. "What loan?" The judge didn't answer, but the whispers started immediately. Turned out my parents had used my name, my old co-signed credit from college, to secure a $250,000 business expansion loan. And when I filed my suit, the bank rechecked everything and denied it, because my lawsuit implied pending litigation that could compromise any cosigner standing. They were counting on me staying quiet, on me playing the good daughter. Instead, I pulled the pin, and they watched their financial house of cards collapse. The look on my mother's face. It wasn't anger, it was fear. The case didn't go to trial. They settled. Kyle issued a public apology drafted by his legal team. My parents agreed to a financial payout undisclosed, but more than enough to cover my therapy bills, the apartment I'd moved into, and a new start. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the shift. The moment I stopped shrinking myself to fit their mold. The moment I stopped hoping my pain would earn me their attention. That first night after the settlement, Melanie and I sat on my tiny balcony, a blanket over our legs, sipping tea in the cold October air. "Do you regret any of it?" she asked softly. I looked out over the city. The skyline had never looked so open. "No," I said, because for the first time in my life, I didn't disappear. It wasn't clean or easy. My phone still buzzed with messages I didn't open from extended family, trying to stay neutral, from my cousin, asking me to let it go for the holidays, from my uncle's wife suggesting maybe this was all blown out of proportion. But I ignored them. I wasn't trying to win anyone back anymore. A few months later, I got a new job, communications director for a nonprofit supporting women navigating post-family estrangement and legal independence. I didn't hide my story. I used it. I gave talks, wrote op-eds, helped others leave behind the silence that had once nearly buried me. And at every talk, every panel, I ended with this: there will come a moment when someone you love will make you choose between their comfort and your truth. Choose your truth, because you're not here to keep them comfortable. You're here to live. And to you, the viewer, have you ever had to walk away from a family that refused to see you? Have you ever stayed quiet to protect someone who wouldn't protect you? Let me ask you honestly, what would you do if speaking up meant losing everything except yourself? Let us know in the comments. Your story might help someone find their voice.